explore shoulder mobility. Shoulder mobility really starts with the rotation of the shoulder. So in today's video, I'm going to help you explore and learn about the rotation of the shoulder, the fundamental movement of that joint, how to passively stretch into that rotation, and how to actively work on improving that rotation. So we're going to need a step stool or a bench, something that is about shoulder height, and we'll need something like a dowel or a stick, and 2 yoga blocks or surfaces like books that you can lift off from on the floor. So let's start with finding passive shoulder rotation. So you're going to take your step stool and you're going to place your elbow right in front of your shoulder. So you want your surface to be about in line with your shoulder, and then you're going to get close enough so that your elbow and upper arm is going to be on the step stool, and you want to make sure that you are near the edge so that when we go into our rotation, you can go below that step stool or surface, right? So we're going to be passively rotating from the shoulder joint. So when I say rotating from the shoulder joint, the bone that is rotating within that shoulder socket is the humerus bone, the upper arm bone. So when we're working shoulder mobility, the shoulder itself is staying still while that humerus bone is moving within that shoulder joint. So we're going to be placing the elbow straight in front of the shoulder. So make sure that once you place your upper arm down, that you rotate your chest slightly towards that elbow, and think about pulling that shoulder away from the elbow as well, so that we are really in this anterior position of the upper arm bone. So we're going to start with going into passive internal rotation first. If I take a thumbs up with my arm extended and I turn the thumbs up in towards the center of my body, this upper arm bone is internally rotating. So from this position, I'm going to go into that internal rotation by taking my left hand, placing it on my right elbow, and pulling down into a passive stretch. So the elbow is staying in front of my shoulder. I'm not letting it fall inside of that surface, right? I'm pulling my shoulder back away from that elbow here into that internal rotation. So I'll show you from the side as well. We're going to hold that position. So if you were to see me from the side, I'm here and I'm pulling into that rotation. So my humerus is rotating on its axis. Then you're slowly going to release that forearm and come back center. And then let's do that again. Take that left arm on top of the right forearm and push into internal shoulder rotation. Now, as you're doing this, make sure that this shoulder doesn't start lifting up, or that your body doesn't start leaning away from that upper arm bone. Keep that right side of the ribcage down and the right shoulder down and back. And then come back center. Let's do that 3 more times. Again, finding the internal rotation stretch. Now you might feel a little stretch or some almost painful, uncomfortable feeling right on the inside of that shoulder capsule, and that's totally normal. Just take it easy. Try not to put too much tension into this stretch. And let's do that 2 more times, pulling into that stretch. If you're in an uncomfortable base position, you can grab one of your yoga blocks, place it right underneath your hips, and release. Let's go 1 more time. Again, just passively going in and out of this rotation. All right, so let's stick with that right shoulder, but now let's go into some external rotation. So now I'm going to clasp my hands together, bring my elbows together, and then I'm going to bring my left arm down on top of my right arm. So now I'm going into external shoulder rotation. That humerus bone is rotating externally from the shoulder. So I'm taking this orientation here and continuing to pull that right shoulder back away from that right elbow. And release. And again, going into external rotation. Try not to let that elbow slide around on your surface. As you're going into that rotation, try to keep it still. Don't let it fall out with you or move around too much. You can, of course, adjust in between reps. Let's go 2 more into that passive shoulder external rotation. Now you're going to be feeling a stretch on the outside of the shoulder. And come back center, and let's go one more into passive shoulder external rotation. And rest. Now let's try that on the left side. Alright, so we're going to start with that internal rotation. Elbow is right in front of the shoulder. And I'm going to take my right hand and reach it on top of that left elbow, pushing into internal rotation. So I'm really just using that elbow, the weight of my right arm and elbow, to pull that humerus into internal rotation. And then come back center. Still keeping my chest rotated towards that left elbow and pulling that left shoulder away from the left elbow. Make sure as you're going into this that that elbow doesn't extend. You want that elbow to stay at a 90-degree angle, or honestly, even a little bit more than that. Release, and let's do that 3 more times, going into shoulder internal rotation. Most of the time we work a lot with shoulder external rotation, but we really want to stress that internal rotation. It's the harder of the two, harder to find, harder to strengthen, and definitely more uncomfortable to be in. Let's go one more time to internal passive range. And then let's go straight away into our external. So we found internal rotation on that left side. Clasp those hands together and push that left arm into external rotation. So my upper arm bone is externally rotating within that left shoulder. And again, into external rotation. Back center. Last 3, external. Try to release tension from that left shoulder so that the humerus can rotate a little bit further. A lot of times our mobility is limited just simply by our central nervous system not used to being in these articulations. So we want the central nervous system to be able to relax so that we can actually work in these passive ranges and improve that range of motion. And release. So now let's get into passive ranges in a different way, where we can strengthen those passive ranges and start producing force in those articulations. So you're going to grab your dowel or your short stick, and we're going to start with shoulder external rotation first. So you can do this from a tall standing position or a tall kneeling position. You're going to grab the stick right in the middle with the right hand, and you're going to reach across the body with that right arm. Thread the left arm on top of the right, so that the stick is on the back of that left shoulder. Turn the palm up and grab the stick with the fingers facing towards you. So I'm grabbing here, my elbows right in front of the shoulder, my elbows bent around 90 degrees. Then you're going to pull the stick across the body. Try not to pull out in front of you or back behind you. Try to pull straight across. This is your shoulder external rotation. So we're using that stick for leverage to get further into that external rotation. Again, this is a passive range of motion. The stick is helping us get into a deeper stretch. Slowly come out of it. Let's do that one more time. Rotate here into that external rotation. So now we're going to start lengthening and shortening the stick. We're going to be producing force in this rotation. So with both hands, right, the left hand is on top of the stick. You're going to grab it with your fingers and start to pull that stick apart. This is an isometric contraction, so both sides are pulling, nothing's actually moving, but you're feeling the tissues in the shoulder working hard to produce force in this externally rotated position. Now let's shorten the stick. Both hands are going to push in on that stick. Make sure that that elbow stays right in front of the shoulder, and then we lengthen again. Keep lengthening. And shorten. Make sure you can breathe in this as well. Now, let's release the tension on the stick, but let's stay in this rotation. We're just going to open that arm to the side. So the right arm is going to come out in front of you, the stick is going to point forward, and the left elbow is going to be next to the left shoulder. So I'll show you that again. From this front position, we're going to open to the side so that stick is reaching forward. Now from here, we're also going to lengthen and shorten. So you're going to lengthen that stick and pull. And shorten. Make sure in this rotation that we're not bending to that left side. You want to keep that right side of the ribcage down as you lengthen again. Breathe and shorten. And then slowly come back center, undo all of that, and we'll hit the right side. So now you're gonna grab the stick in the left hand, reach it across the body, thread the right arm on top, rotate the palm up, grab the stick with the fingers facing you. Arm is bent at about 90 degrees with the elbow right in front of the shoulder as you pull into external rotation. Keep pulling that right shoulder away from the right elbow and keep pulling the right shoulder away from the right ear. Now this is super common in this stretch. We want to keep that elbow nice and high so that the angle of rotation is intense. So you're not going to feel as much of a stretch down here. You'll feel more of a stretch, which might mean that you have to come out of that rotation slightly, and that's perfectly fine. We want a nice intense angle of rotation. So let's ease out of that stretch and then go back into it again. And then let's start our lengthen and shorten. So you're going to pull apart on that stick, grabbing the stick with the right fingertips and pulling up with that hand as the left pulls down. And now shorten the stick, push in on that stick. And then let's lengthen again, pulling that stick apart. Feel the tissues in the right shoulder working hard. You don't have to use much tension here. And then shorten. So now from here, we're going to open to the side. So you're going to keep that rotation, reach the left arm across the body. And if this is a lot for that right shoulder or even for the left arm to maintain the integrity of the torso, then you could just open that right elbow out to 1 o'clock or even just keep it right in front here. So now that we're in this abducted and rotated position, let's lengthen that stick, pulling apart, and shorten. And lengthen, and shorten. Let's slowly bring that elbow back in front, come on out of it. So that's our external rotation of the shoulder. We're really feeling that thumbs up pointing out, that humerus externally rotating within that shoulder joint. So now let's work on our internal rotation stretch with some lengthening and shortening of that stick again. So you're going to reach the right hand on the stick with the thumb pointing down. You're going to bring the stick behind you. You're going to set the right hand up at the base of your neck and grab onto the stick with the thumb pointing up with that left hand. Okay, the left hand's at the base of your back. And you're going to pull up on the stick with that right hand to pull into an internal rotation stretch of that left arm. If you can pull that stick up nice and high, you're going to reach down again with that right hand and pull up a little higher. So we've got tension on that stick. My left hand is reflexively pulling down while my right hand pulls up. So we've already got an active stretch going here. We're going to take a few breaths here in this stretch. And then we're going to start lengthening and shortening. So let's go ahead and pull apart on that stick. Left arm is pulling down, right arm is pulling up. And then reverse that. So now left arm is going to push up while the right hand pushes down. Now is when we're really going to feel those tissues on that left shoulder working hard. And then again, pull that stick apart. And one more time, push in. Now let's slowly release the tension and let go of that right arm first if you can. Try to hold that rotation and then slowly come out of that position with the left. Now your left hand is already set up for the other side. So the thumb is going to point down. Place it behind your back. Right arm is going to grab the stick right at the base of your lower back. And then you're going to pull the left arm up, which pulls the right arm into shoulder internal rotation. If you can grab lower, if you can go further with that right arm, slide the left arm down the stick and pull up again. So there's tension on that stick here. Try not to let this right shoulder lift or bend away from that rotation. Try to keep that spine nice and still here. Okay, try not to lean forward here with the chin and the chest. So now let's start lengthening and shortening. So we're going to pull that stick apart, pull and hold. And shorten the stick. Push up with the right, down with the left. And one more time, lengthen and pull. Trying to stay in that deep rotation. And shorten. Now we're slowly going to let go of that left hand, maintaining that rotation with the right, and slowly come on out of it. All right, nice. So now let's work some active rotation. So we're going to put our stick to the side, we're going to lie face down, we're going to work external rotation first. So we're going to do both shoulders at the same time. So you're going to lie face down with your elbows straight out from the shoulders, placed on top of your yoga blocks. So the elbows are on the blocks and the fists are going to hang off of the blocks. So as you lie face down, we're in some slight internal rotation of the shoulders. What you're going to do from here is you're going to press into the floor with your feet, squeeze your glutes, press the hips into the floor, press the elbows into the blocks, and we're going to lift up into shoulder external rotation. Now, if you're feeling a lot of tension in the neck, you can grab another yoga block for under your forehead or a towel. From here, you're slowly going to bring those fists back down to the floor. Take a deep breath, and then we're actively going to lift into external rotation again. Exhale, drive those elbows into the blocks as you lift up and hold. You're going to feel the posterior side, the back of the shoulders, working hard to lift those fists into external rotation. Slowly bring those fists back down. Let's do that 3 more times. Exhale as you lift up into external rotation. And slowly bring those fists back down. Exhale. Keep those shoulders away from the ears as you lift up and hold. And down. And let's go one more time. Lift up to hold. See if you can drive those elbows down to lift those fists even higher. And down. Nice. So that's your active external rotation. We're just working against gravity to rotate that arm from the shoulder. Let's work our active internal rotation. So we're going to start in a passive range, and then we're going to lift up and activate that internal rotation. So your hands are going to be behind your back. You can place your blocks to the side, unless you want one for underneath your forehead. And then you're going to place your hands behind your back, overlap those hands, and go up as high as you can comfortably. From there, you're going to let those elbows release towards the floor. Now this right here is your internal rotation stretch. So you're going to feel that internal rotation stretch deep within that shoulder capsule just by resting in this position. Right, so we've got internal rotation stretch. Now let's see if we can lift up into external rotation into internal rotation from here. So you're going to squeeze the shoulder blades together and lift the elbows just high enough so that you can get the hands off of your back and hold. So we're lifting those hands up, but we're trying not to lift the elbows higher than the hands. So you're trying to keep the elbows lower than the hands, which is going to keep those shoulders in internal rotation. And then bring the hands and the elbows down. And then let's do that again. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Lift the elbows just as high as you need to lift those hands off of the back. And bring those hands down into that internal rotation stretch. So if you could lift and keep this same angle of rotation the whole time, that's what we're aiming for. But of course, that is very difficult to do, even if you are not a beginner with mobility work. And let's go ahead and exhale, squeeze those shoulder blades together, lift those hands up, try to keep them above the elbows. And bring those hands and elbows down. Now, let's switch hands. So if you have your right hand on top, you're going to switch so now the left hand is on top. And if you have the left hand on top, switch so that the right hand is on top. We're going to do 2 more. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift the hands as high as you can. Try to keep them higher than the elbows. Breathe and down. And let's do that one more time. Lifting, hold, Keep those elbows low while those hands go up, up, up. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Take a deep breath, slowly come out of that position. Nice work. So I hope you learned a little something today about shoulder internal and external rotation. That's the fundamental movement of the shoulder joint. If you can improve those rotations or understand them a little bit better, then your overhead, your push-ups, your throws, catches, and dynamic movement, shoulder extension is all going to improve as well. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.